Well, I think the question of influence is quite difficult to answer. I mean, you have to go back a long way. I mean, people become writers early on in their lives. And I'd like to say that I had inspirational teachers, and I did, but I can't remember any of them inspiring me in any particular way. And in addition, I think because my father was an immigrant from Poland and my mother was an only child from London, I don't have an extended family. I didn't know any uncles and aunts, and I never knew my grandparents. So that tradition of family storytelling was kind of lost in my family. I think that's where a lot of people get their need to write stories, but that wasn't the case for me. So obviously my early influences were books, good ripping adventure yarns. I remember scandalising my primary 7 teacher because I wanted Biggles books and she didn't think they were good enough for me, but I thought they were great. And I think growing up in the 60s, a big thing was television, the influence of television. I think paradoxically, television is perhaps a bit less of an influence now because it's so ubiquitous. People spend a lot of time watching television, but not a lot of it goes in, if you know what I mean. In the 60s, it was rationed. It was you saw very little of the television. I think it stopped at 10 o'clock at night. So I remember most as importantly things like the Gerry Anderson puppet series, Stingray and Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons, and these were absolute ripping yarns full of dastardly deeds and villains and heroes. So that kind of very compact, exciting storytelling had a big influence on me. So I think the influence to write and the motivation to write was more internal than external. Because of the influence of all of these fantastic stories I immersed myself in, and because of the games we played. We used to play cowboys and Indians and war games, all very politically incorrect, but you could disappear for a day and play these games where you became totally immersed in an imaginary world. And I think I was a bit of a fantasist too as a child, because I carried on those fantasies on my own, in my own head. I'd lie awake at night and lull myself to sleep with all sorts of fantastical stories of rescuing the primary school from marauding barbarians, especially the wee girl I particularly liked who sat beside me. Or we had this lovely hillside at the back of our house, and so I'd imagine sort of going off with my friends and leading the resistance against invading aliens. So I think the influence of those very, very powerful narratives that came across in television and in books, and that we reenacted in our play, had a knock-on effect into the internal world I created. I think that sort of background, I think the beauty of childhood play is that you get to be someone else. I remember a friend of mine whose parents ran a fruit and veg shop, and so her back garden was always filled with these sort of little fruit crates, and we would create castles and ships with decks and holds and bridges on them, or at least that's what we imagined them as, although they were probably just a ramshackle collection of stuff. And we would be pirates in the high seas, or we would be kings in our castles. And I think that motivation to be someone else is a really powerful motivation for me as a writer, because I'm interested in people and I want to kind of sample their life by imagining what it's like to be them. It's hugely enjoyable. It can be quite uncomfortable at times, but it's hugely enjoyable to put yourselves in someone else's shoes. I mean, that's one of the big themes of To Kill a Mockingbird, which is one of my favourite books. Putting yourselves in someone else's shoes and just looking at the world through their eyes. I think that's a really enjoyable thing to do for writers.